For 5,000 years, humanity had vanished from the stars, their once great civilizations reduced to nothing more than forgotten dust and faint legends whispered among alien races. Entire galaxies had moved on, their histories filled with new empires and new heroes. But the story of humans was lost to time. No one truly knew what had happened to them, or why they had disappeared so suddenly. Dr. Kira Ilan, a young and determined archaeologist from the distant star system of Valera, had spent her entire career chasing faint traces of humanity's past, desperate to find proof that humans ever existed beyond myths. Her ship, the Odyssey, hovered over a dead planet orbiting a dim sun, an unremarkable world that many had overlooked. But Kira believed this planet held the key to awakening humanity's long-forgotten story. As her team landed near the ruins of what once must have been a sprawling human outpost, an eerie silence settled over the landscape, broken only by the soft hum of their equipment. The air was stale, the sky dull and colorless, but beneath the cracked surface, ancient technology waited. Their scanners detected faint, irregular signals buried beneath layers of rock and ice, signals unlike anything known to the other species who now roamed the stars. Kira's heart raced with excitement and fear as she approached the entrance of a sealed chamber, marked by strange symbols and worn metal doors. These doors had been locked for thousands of years, untouched since the day humanity went to sleep. She keyed in the codes her team had painstakingly uncovered from encrypted data files scattered across the planet's ruins, and with a low grinding noise, the doors began to open, revealing darkness beyond. Inside, the cold air carried a strange metallic scent, and the walls pulsed faintly with ancient power. Kira's flashlight cut through the shadows, revealing towering machines covered in dust and cables snaking along the floor like silent serpents. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly beneath their feet, a subtle vibration that grew stronger. Something deep within the chamber was waking. The other members of her team exchanged nervous glances, but Kira pressed on, drawn toward a central console glowing dimly with a soft blue light. The screen flickered to life as her gloved hand brushed its surface, displaying images of star maps, cryptic warnings, and a massive weapon referred to only as the Beast. The name alone sent chills down her spine. According to the data, the Beast was humanity's last creation, a bioengineered protector, designed to defend against an enemy so terrible that no other weapon could stand against it. But the files were fragmented, corrupted by time, and no clear record explained what had happened after the Beast was activated, or whether it had survived the centuries. Then, without warning, the chamber shuddered violently, and red warning. Lights flashed as systems that had been dormant for millennia roared back to life. The Beast's cry, a sound like metal grinding against bone, echoed through the chamber, shaking the walls. Kira stumbled backward, her mind racing. Had they just woken a sleeping monster? The team scrambled to control panels, trying to shut down the systems, but the Beast was not responding to commands. Instead, it seemed aware, scanning the chamber and beyond as if sensing a new world it had never seen before. Outside, distant, starships from neighboring civilizations began to detect strange energy spikes from the planet, sending scouts and mercenaries eager to claim whatever power lay beneath. The peaceful planet was now a battleground waiting to erupt. Kira realized that the secrets they had uncovered were far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Humanity had not just disappeared, they had hidden a force that, if unleashed, could change the fate of the galaxy forever. And now, after 5,000 years, the Beast had awoken. The Beast had awoken, and its deep, low growls echoed through the dark corridors of the ancient outpost, sending shivers down the spines of everyone present. Dr. Kira Ilan stood frozen for a moment, heart pounding as the heavy metal limbs of the creature shifted silently in the gloom. The faint blue light from the consoles cast eerie shadows on the walls, revealing glimpses of something both mechanical and alive, a terrifying fusion of flesh and metal. Around her, the team scrambled to regain control of the situation, fingers flying over keyboards and touchscreens, trying to access systems that had not been used for thousands of years. The data streams flickered and popped, revealing snippets of information that seemed to warn more than explain. The Beast was not just a weapon, it was a guardian, a sentinel left behind by a vanished civilization. Kira's mind raced, her curiosity battling with growing fear. The creature's systems hummed with ancient power, and it was clear that it was scanning, learning, trying to understand its surroundings after a silence that had lasted centuries. Outside the chamber, the atmosphere had shifted. The planet's surface was alive with tension. Nearby outposts, abandoned for millennia, suddenly crackled with renewed energy as old defense grids reactivated. Alien ships in orbit around the planet picked up strange energy signatures that didn't match anything known. Reports flooded into the Galactic Council. Unknown life forms had stirred beneath the dead world's surface, and something was moving. Meanwhile, back inside the chamber, Kira and her team faced another problem. The encrypted files they had recovered hinted at a terrible past, a war so devastating that humanity chose to put itself to sleep rather than face total destruction. These archives were filled with warnings, instructions, and desperate pleas, but much of the information was corrupted or lost. Among the fragments, one message stood out: "Do not awaken the beast unless the enemy returns." But who was the enemy? And was it truly gone? As Kira worked to decrypt more data, a low hum filled the air, growing steadily louder until it became a deep vibration that seemed to resonate with the very walls of the chamber. The beast moved again, its eyes glowing faintly with a pale blue light. It extended a massive arm, touching a control panel that flickered under its touch. Screens lit up with images of star systems, unknown to Kira and her crew, filled with strange symbols and warnings. The beast was accessing information stored long ago, searching for threats, allies, or orders it could no longer fully understand. Then, the silence shattered with a distant explosion. Outside, mercenary ships, drawn by the signals from the planet, began to fire on the outpost. Their weapons tore through the thin atmosphere, sending shockwaves into the ground. Kira shouted orders to her team, urging them to secure the data and protect the beast from falling into hostile hands. The situation was spiraling out of control. Desperate to understand more, Kira found a hidden chamber deep within the complex, filled with holographic archives. As she activated the ancient devices, ghostly images of humans appeared. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians from a forgotten time. Their voices faint but full of urgency. They spoke of an alien alliance that had nearly destroyed humanity, of a last stand where humans had created the beast to turn the tide. But something had gone wrong. The alliance had vanished, the war had ended, or had it? The holograms showed a warning. The beast was programmed not only to fight, but to protect. A secret buried deep in human DNA, waiting for a time when humanity could rise again. Kira's blood ran cold. Could the awakening of the beast also mean the awakening of humans? Her thoughts were interrupted as the chamber's alarms blared. The mercenaries had breached the outer defenses, and hostile troops were descending. The outpost was no longer a quiet tomb, but a battlefield. With no time to lose, Kira ordered the team to prepare for evacuation, but she stayed behind to access one final terminal. The screen flickered and displayed coordinates, points scattered across the galaxy where human survivors might still be hiding. The beast, it seemed, was a beacon, meant to call these scattered remnants home. Kira realized that the awakening was only the beginning. Far from ending, the danger was just growing. As the mercenaries stormed the lower levels, the beast let out a roar that shook the very foundations of the planet. Kira glanced at the creature and knew that the stories about humanity's extinction were wrong. Something ancient and powerful was alive, and it was ready to change the fate of the stars forever. The roar of the beast echoed through the ancient halls, a sound that shook dust from the ceilings and sent tremors racing through the cold metal floor. But instead of fleeing, Dr. Kira Ilan felt a strange calm settle over her, a fierce determination that she had never known before. Around her, the mercenaries stormed forward, weapons drawn and faces twisted with greed and fear. But the beast moved with a terrifying grace, its massive frame twisting and turning as it protected the chamber and the secrets locked inside. Its eyes glowed brighter now, scanning the invaders with a cold intelligence that seemed to pierce the very souls of those who dared come close. Kira watched in awe as the creature, a living machine, unleashed bursts of energy that forced the attackers back, tearing through armored suits and sending sparks flying. Yet the beast did not seem mindless or wild. It acted as if it understood more than anyone expected, following a code older than the stars themselves. While the battle raged, Kira's mind raced, piecing together fragments from the ancient archives she had discovered. The beast was humanity's last hope, created in desperation during a war that had nearly wiped out their entire species. It was designed not only to defend, but to revive, a guardian meant to protect the genetic key that could bring humans back from extinction. And now, standing at the brink of this impossible moment, Kira realized the full weight of what she had done. By waking the beast, she had also awakened the possibility of humanity's return, but that return was not guaranteed to be peaceful. The mercenaries' desperate assault was only the beginning. The conflict outside was already spilling into the skies above as enemy ships clashed with patrols loyal to the ancient outpost. Somewhere far away, signals crackled through space, sending a message that would echo across the stars, a call for hidden human survivors to come home. As the beast moved to protect Kira, the creature's systems began to glow with an intense light, revealing complex biomechanical patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the ancient human DNA stored deep within its core. It was as if the beast itself was alive with the memories and hopes of a civilization long lost. Kira reached out, placing her hand gently on the creature's cold metal arm, feeling an unexpected warmth beneath the surface. A connection sparked, a shared understanding that went beyond words. The beast was not just a weapon, it was a living bridge to humanity's future. But outside the sanctuary, danger loomed larger. Rival factions from distant worlds, drawn by the strange energy readings and rumors of a weapon unlike any other, had mobilized fleets and armies. They saw the beast as a prize, a tool of destruction to be captured or destroyed. Kira knew that if these forces won, the secret of humanity's return would be lost forever. She turned to her team, her voice steady but urgent, ordering them to prepare for evacuation with the data they had salvaged. Yet, her heart ached with the knowledge that leaving meant abandoning the beast to a war it was not meant to fight alone. Suddenly, the chamber's walls vibrated again as a hidden hatch opened, revealing a spiral staircase leading deeper into the earth. Kira hesitated only a moment before descending into the darkness, compelled by a force she could not explain. At the bottom, she found a hidden control room, filled with ancient technology humming softly. Screens flickered to life, displaying maps of star systems and data points marked with human symbols. Among them, a single blinking light caught her eye, a signal being transmitted from a distant, unknown location. As she studied the coordinates, a chill ran down her spine. This was not just a call for help. It was a beacon meant to reunite scattered remnants of humanity, waking those who had survived in secret, hidden away from hostile eyes. The beast had started this signal, an echo from the past reaching across space and time. Kira knew this message would change everything. The mercenaries' footsteps grew louder above her, their weapons close now. The battle was coming to the very heart of the outpost. She had only moments to decide: stay and fight alongside the awakened beast, or flee and trust that humanity's return was already in motion. As she ascended the stairs, the air grew thick with tension. The beast's growls resonated deeper, as if sensing her decision. Outside the chamber, the mercenaries breached the final door, but instead of surrendering, Kira stood firm, raising a hand as a signal for the beast to protect her and the secrets she carried. The creature responded instantly, its massive form moving to block the invaders. In that moment, Kira understood that humanity's slumber was over. The awakening was not just the stirring of a machine or the flicker of forgotten data. It was the rebirth of a species, fierce and unyielding, ready to face the dangers of a galaxy that had long forgotten their name. And with the beast by her side, Kira would lead the way into a new era, one filled with hope, conflict, and the promise that for humanity, the fight was just beginning. The echoes of battle faded into a tense silence, But the shadows of the past still lingered heavily in the ancient outpost where Dr. Kira Elan and the beast stood side by side, their breaths shallow and hearts pounding with the weight of secrets uncovered. As the last of the mercenaries fell back, defeated or retreating, Kira knew their fight was only beginning. For what they had awakened was far more than a weapon. It was a living memory of a war long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. With the beast standing guard like a towering sentinel, Kira returned to the depths of the outpost, determined to uncover what truly lay behind humanity's disappearance and the terrible enemy they once faced. Flicking through damaged data logs and holographic records, she pieced together a story drenched in desperation and sacrifice. Humanity had once been a thriving force among the stars, spreading across countless worlds, but an overwhelming alien alliance, a coalition of species united in hostility, had risen against them. This alliance had near-endless resources and weapons, forcing humanity into a corner where extinction seemed inevitable. In their darkest hour, humans had turned to their greatest creation, the beast, a bioengineered guardian designed to end the war by becoming the ultimate defender and protector of their genetic legacy. Yet, these records revealed a haunting truth. The beast was also programmed to put humanity into a deep sleep, a suspended animation to protect their DNA until the enemy threat vanished and a new dawn could rise. But what the logs didn't say clearly was why the beast had not reawakened humanity until now. Kira found a final encrypted message from the war's last commander, a woman whose voice trembled with regret as she spoke of betrayal and sacrifice. There had been factions within humanity itself, groups that feared the power of the beast and sought to keep humanity hidden forever, convinced the enemy might return or that awakening the beast would bring doom instead of salvation. Kira felt the weight of those words as if the ghosts of the past whispered warnings through the cold air. Suddenly, the outpost's ancient communication arrays flickered to life, sending out signals that reached distant worlds where scattered human enclaves remained hidden, watching and waiting. Unknown to Kira, many eyes turned toward the source of the awakening, eyes filled with hope, fear, and determination. But the awakening also stirred enemies far worse than mercenaries, dark forces who had waited in silence for humanity's return, forces that thrived in chaos and sought to crush any spark of resistance. As Kira delved deeper into the records, a pattern emerged, a plan buried beneath layers of secrecy that revealed the beast was not only a protector, but a judge, meant to decide when humanity should rise again. The creature's bioengineered mind was linked to ancient protocols designed to assess the galaxy's balance of power and determine if humanity's return would bring peace or destruction. Kira realized the beast's awakening was more than accidental. It was a choice encoded in its very being, a choice that now rested in her hands. Outside the chamber, distant explosions and the hum of engines reminded her that war was approaching, fast. Galactic factions hungry for control had sensed the stirrings of power on the dead planet, and they were preparing to strike. Kira's team prepared to defend their position, but she knew that survival would depend on more than firepower. It would require uncovering the truth and uniting humanity's scattered survivors before enemies could seize the beast's power for themselves. In a quiet moment, Kira reached out to the beast, placing her hand on its armored chest, feeling the steady pulse beneath the metal, as if the creature itself awaited her command. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon her, yet beneath it burned a fierce hope. Humanity had been cast into shadow for millennia, but the shadows of the past were not just chains, they were lessons. As the first stars of a new age began to shine through the outpost's cracked windows, Kira whispered a vow to herself and to the sleeping souls of humanity. She would not let the past destroy their future. The beast's glowing eyes met hers, a silent promise that the fight for humanity's place among the stars was just beginning, and in the deep shadows of the past, a new dawn was waiting to rise. The stillness that followed the shadows of the past was short-lived. As the rising tide of conflict began to swell beyond the ancient outpost, spilling into the cold void of space and reaching across star systems long untouched by war. Dr. Kira Elan, standing beside the beast, watched the flickering holographic map glow with countless blinking lights, ships from various factions moving closer, drawn by rumors of the awakening, eager to claim the power that had lain dormant for 5,000 years. The data they had recovered showed not only the scattered signals calling to hidden human enclaves, but also warnings from forgotten commanders about the dangers of this very moment. The beast was more than a protector. It was a symbol, a beacon, that would rally both allies and enemies alike. Kira knew that time was running out. As fleets gathered in the darkness, rival leaders sent envoys and spies, their messages laced with threats, promises, and betrayal. The galaxy's delicate balance was tipping, and the hidden survivors of humanity were forced to respond. From the shadows of distant systems, hidden colonies began to stir, their leaders debating whether to heed the call of the beast or stay concealed, fearful of reigniting ancient wars. Among them was Captain Jalen Voss, a hardened commander of a secret human fleet whose ancestors had fled the original war and survived by hiding beyond known space. When his ship's sensors detected the beast's signal, a pulse stronger than any star, he knew the time for hiding was over. His fleet prepared to move, unsure if they would find salvation or destruction. Back on the outpost, Kira and her team worked tirelessly to strengthen the defenses, knowing that the first wave of attacks would come soon. The beast stood as their guardian, its bioengineered muscles rippling beneath the armor as it scanned the skies with unblinking eyes. Each battle that erupted around the planet was a test, not only of strength but of will. Mercenaries, alien armies, and rival human factions clashed in fierce skirmishes, their weapons lighting up the dark skies. The outpost became a beacon of resistance, its ancient energy fields flickering to life, powered by the same technology that had once saved humanity from extinction. Kira's mind was consumed with plans, how to unite these fractured human forces, how to protect the secret of the beast, and how to prepare for the inevitable war that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The rising tide of enemies threatened to overwhelm them, but the beast's presence inspired courage. It moved with purpose, shielding Kira and her team from attacks, cutting down foes with terrifying precision, and repairing itself when damaged, as if driven by an unseen will beyond programming. Then came a message from deep space, encrypted but unmistakably human, coordinates to a hidden sanctuary where survivors had gathered, waiting for a sign. Kira knew that uniting with these survivors was the key to turning the tide, but reaching them meant crossing enemy lines and risking everything. As Kira prepared a small team to embark on the dangerous mission, the beast's systems hummed with energy, almost as if sensing the urgency of the moment. The outpost's ancient defenses flared to life one final time, blocking waves of attackers in a desperate struggle to hold the line. Every moment was charged with tension, every decision a gamble. The fate of humanity hung on the edge of a knife. As Kira's ship lifted off, escaping the battle below, she looked back at the glowing outpost and the towering figure of the beast, a symbol of hope and power that had waited millennia to rise again. She whispered a promise that they would return, not as forgotten shadows, but as a rising tide that would sweep across the stars, reclaiming their place in the universe. The journey was perilous, the challenges immense, but the spark of humanity's rebirth had been ignited, and nothing could stop the rising tide from changing the galaxy forever. The cold void of space stretched endlessly before Captain Jalen Voss's ship as it raced toward the coordinates that flickered like a distant promise on the holographic map, and inside the cramped bridge, the crew moved with quiet urgency, every eye focused on the unknown that awaited them beyond the starfield. Jalen's thoughts were a storm of hope and fear, for this mission was their chance to ignite the first spark of humanity's rebirth. Yet the dangers were immense: enemy patrols, hostile forces, and the unknown fate of those survivors waiting at the other end of the signal. The silence between the stars was almost deafening, broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional crackle of communication channels as the crew ran final checks and braced for the unexpected. Jalen's mind flicked back to the message they had intercepted, encrypted but unmistakably human in origin. A beacon sent from the hidden sanctuary where survivors had lived in secrecy for centuries, waiting for the day when the beast's signal would awaken them from the shadows. As the ship neared the coordinates, tension coiled in the air like a living thing, every second stretching longer, the unknown closing in. The scanners detected signs of life on a small, rugged planet, shielded by dense clouds and ancient ruins that seemed to whisper stories of a forgotten past. Then, suddenly, the ship's sensors flared with warnings. Enemy vessels appeared on the edge of detection, fast and deadly, intent on cutting off any connection to the sanctuary. Jalen ordered evasive maneuvers, the ship weaving through asteroid fields and broken debris as the first firefight erupted in space, laser blasts painting streaks of deadly light across the darkness. The crew fought fiercely, their hearts pounding, as they pushed through the blockade, desperate to reach the sanctuary before it was too late. After what felt like an eternity, the hostile ships fell back, their retreat marked by ominous threats and a promise that they would return. Breathing hard, Jalen guided the ship into the atmosphere of the hidden world below, descending through thick clouds until the outlines of a sprawling underground city appeared, dimly lit, but alive with movement. The landing was rough but successful, and as the crew disembarked, they were met not with suspicion, but cautious hope. The survivors, faces weathered by time and struggle, greeted them with a mix of relief and questions, their eyes shining with the same yearning for connection that Jalen felt deep in his soul. Among them was an elder named Mira, a woman whose voice carried the weight of centuries and whose knowledge of the past was unmatched. She spoke of the long years spent hiding, of the fears and hopes that had kept her people alive, and of the importance of the beast's awakening, a signal that had breathed new life into their fading courage. Kira's message had reached them, but now the true challenge began, to unite the scattered fragments of humanity, to rebuild trust where suspicion had grown, and to prepare for the war that was sure to come. As the sanctuary's leaders debated their next move, Jalen and his crew shared everything they had learned about the beast, the outpost, and the rising tide of enemies gathering beyond the stars. The survivors listened, their faces shifting from doubt to determination, realizing that the first spark had been lit, but it would take every ounce of strength and courage to keep it burning. Outside the sanctuary's hidden walls, sensors detected new signs of movement, enemy forces preparing to strike at the heart of humanity's fragile rebirth. The sanctuary's defenses awakened, ancient weapons and shields humming to life as the survivors prepared for battle. In the quiet moments before the storm, Jalen stood with Mira and the others, looking up at the sky where distant stars shone like eyes watching over their fate. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, but also the fierce fire of hope that refused to be extinguished. The first spark was just the beginning. It was a signal to the galaxy that humanity was waking, growing stronger, and ready to fight for its place among the stars. And as the sanctuary braced for the coming war, that spark promised to ignite a blaze that would change everything forever. The long silence that had followed the awakening was shattered, as the first shots of war rang out across the void, echoing through the vast emptiness of space and crashing down on the fragile sanctuary that had become the last hope of humanity. Captain Jalen Voss stood firm on the command deck, eyes locked on the endless waves of enemy ships closing in, their dark silhouettes blotting out the stars like a gathering storm, while behind him the survivors scrambled to ready their ancient weapons, the hum of shields charging, and the sharp crackle of communications filling the tense air as the War of the Woken had begun, a conflict that would decide the fate of an entire species long thought lost to time. Outside the sanctuary's hidden walls, enemy fighters darted like swarming wasps, striking fast and hard, their weapons designed to penetrate the old defenses that had guarded the human enclaves for centuries. But the defenders fought with desperate courage, using every scrap of knowledge and technology passed down from their ancestors. The beast, awakened and powerful, rose from its slumber beneath the outpost, its massive form a towering figure of fury and precision, moving with terrifying strength as it engaged enemy ground forces attempting to breach the sanctuary itself, its glowing eyes cutting through the smoke and fire like twin beacons of wrath and protection. Kira Ilan, coordinating defenses alongside Jalen, felt the sharp edge of exhaustion and hope mingle as she issued orders, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. The survivors, once isolated and afraid, now stood united beneath the beast's shadow, their resolve hardened like forged steel in the face of annihilation. The battlefield was a chaotic blur of explosions, flashing weapons, and frantic movements. But beneath the chaos was a rhythm, a deadly dance where every decision could mean survival or death. As the enemy forces intensified their assault, deploying heavier ships and advanced weaponry, the defenders discovered a terrifying truth. Their attackers were not just mercenaries or rival factions. They were part of a vast coalition bent on erasing humanity from the galaxy forever, fearing the return of a species once thought extinct. In the thick of the battle, Jalen piloted his ship alongside fighter squads, engaging in deadly dogfights that twisted and turned through debris fields and ion storms, every moment a test of skill and courage. Meanwhile, Kira worked feverishly to unlock deeper functions within the beast, searching for hidden protocols that might turn the tide of battle. The ancient machine responded slowly, awakening memories encoded in its core, memories of battles long past, strategies of defense and offense once used by human generals who had commanded legions among the stars. As the beast's systems came alive with new energy, it began to coordinate with the survivors, directing movements and attacks with a precision no human mind could match. This newfound synergy shifted the battle's momentum, forcing enemy commanders to rethink their plans as they faced a foe that was both human and machine, history and future intertwined. But victory was far from certain. The enemy's relentless waves pushed harder, their forces adapting quickly, exploiting weaknesses and launching devastating strikes that tore through shields and armor alike. Amid the turmoil, whispers of betrayal surfaced, rumors that not all human factions were united, that some had struck secret deals with the enemy to preserve their own survival, risking everything for power and control. Trust fractured like glass in the heat of war, threatening to tear apart the fragile alliance just when it was needed most. Yet in the darkest hours, sparks of heroism shone bright. Fighters risked everything to protect their comrades. Scientists pushed the limits of ancient technology to repair and enhance weapons, and the beast itself became a symbol of unyielding strength, standing tall against impossible odds. In a daring assault led by Jalen and Kira, a team infiltrated the enemy's flagship to disable their command network, hoping to cripple the assault from within. The mission was a harrowing descent into the heart of danger, with narrow corridors, silent, alarms and deadly traps waiting at every turn. Each step forward was a battle against time and fear, but their success would mean more than a tactical victory. It would send a message that humanity was no longer sleeping, that the war of the Woken had begun and would not end until they reclaimed their place among the stars. As explosions rocked the enemy flagship and communications went dark, the tide of battle shifted once again. The survivors and the beast pressed forward, their combined might pushing the invaders back, reclaiming lost ground and striking fear into the hearts of those who sought to extinguish humanity's light forever. Yet, even as victory seemed within reach, Kira's mind was troubled by a growing realization. The war was only the beginning of a larger struggle, one that would test not just their strength, but their humanity itself. The choices they made now would shape the future of all living beings, and the shadows of the past loomed still, reminding them that survival required more than weapons and warriors. It demanded unity, sacrifice, and a spark of hope that could never be extinguished. As the stars glimmered faintly beyond the battlefield's smoke, the war of the Woken raged on, a storm of fire and steel that would forge a new destiny for humanity, one that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The war that had raged across stars and shadows finally began to slow, the thunder of battle fading into a tense quiet that blanketed the scarred worlds where humanity's future had been fought for and won. But the cost was heavy, and the dawn that broke over the shattered horizon was not just a new day. It was the dawn of a new era, fragile yet filled with the promise of rebirth. Captain Jalen Voss stood on the bridge of the Sanctuary's command ship, gazing out at the battered fleets gathering in cautious truce, their war machine silent for the first time in what felt like an age, while Dr. Kira Elon moved among the survivors, her eyes bright with tired hope as she helped heal wounds both physical and broken by years of fear and division. The beast, once a sleeping giant beneath the ruins of a forgotten world, now stood among them like a guardian whose mission had expanded beyond mere protection. It had become a symbol of humanity's resilience, its towering frame a reminder that even after millennia of silence, the fire of life could never be fully extinguished. Yet the shadows of the past clung stubbornly, for victory in war was only the beginning, and the survivors faced challenges far greater than enemy fleets or fractured alliances. Rebuilding a shattered civilization meant facing the unknown, rekindling lost knowledge, and learning to trust one another in a galaxy that had grown cold and indifferent during their long slumber. The hidden human enclaves, once isolated by fear and secrecy, began to emerge from hiding, responding to the call that the beast's awakening had sent across the stars, and their leaders gathered with Jalen and Kira to forge a new council, one tasked with guiding humanity toward unity and peace. Discussions were heated and often filled with old wounds, but beneath the tensions lay a shared understanding that the mistakes of the past could not be repeated if they were to survive this new age. Kira worked tirelessly with scientists and engineers to unlock the full potential of the beast, discovering that its programming contained ancient wisdom and advanced technology that could accelerate their recovery, heal broken planets, and defend against threats yet unseen. The creature's eyes, once fierce with the power of war, now shone softly with a silent promise. A promise to stand watch over humanity's fragile rebirth. Outside the sanctuary, diplomatic missions were sent to other civilizations, some curious, others wary but all aware that the galaxy's balance had shifted. The return of humanity stirred old fears and new hopes, and the fragile threads of peace hung in the balance as tentative agreements were forged and uneasy truces held. Jalen found himself navigating a complex web of politics and alliances, realizing that battles of diplomacy were as critical as those fought with weapons, and that leadership required patience and courage in equal measure. Amid these efforts, rumors of a darker threat began to surface, whispers of forces lurking beyond known space, waiting for weakness to strike, and reminding humanity that their fight was far from over. But even in the face of uncertainty, the survivors embraced the dawn with open hearts, determined to rebuild not only their worlds, but their spirits. Communities grew, children were born under starry skies, and the songs of old humanity found new voices among the stars. Kira and Jalen often stood together watching the horizon, knowing their journey was just beginning and that the new era would demand everything from them: hope, strength, and above all, unity. The beast, once a silent guardian, now walked among them as a protector and a guide, its presence a bridge between the past and the future. And as the twin suns rose over the sanctuary, casting long shadows that stretched toward the heavens, a quiet truth settled in the hearts of all who survived. Humanity had awoken from its long sleep, not to reclaim an empire lost, but to build a future shaped by the lessons of yesterday and the dreams of tomorrow, a future where the stars themselves seemed within reach, shining bright with the promise of a new dawn.